So greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking, and I am Del Barzi. And as always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey, from students to retirees and anywhere in between. And today, it is my great pleasure to welcome Darlene Belle. Darlene is a registered nurse. She's a board-certified integrative nurse coach, a licensed esthetician, and owner of Belle Integrative Wellness, an online stress management coaching business that helps driven nurses who are committed to their personal growth but struggle to manage stress while juggling daily life. In addition, she's a freelance writer, an owner of a weekly blog site, and the author of digital products, ebooks, all of which focus on stress, wellness, and personal development. This year, she has been a public speaker in the workplace, covering workplace wellness, and she's embarking on a joint venture with travel consultant Rachel Belle to form the Belle Experience, a company that will provide retreats for driven women. It will be the place where travel meets wellness. With more than 20 years of nursing experience, caring for and nurturing others, it is not foreign to Darlene. As a nurse, coach, and esthetician, she combines internal wellness through coaching and external wellness through aesthetics to her clients. And they can glow from the inside out. I love that. They can glow from the inside out.
Yes. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Welcome, Darlene. Welcome.
Thank you.
I love to see nurses doing all kinds of things with their license, so I'm so proud of that.
Thank you.
But first of all, why are you a nurse?
Oh my goodness. Every time I get that question, it makes me chuckle, because when I decided to become a nurse, I was in high school and I was not planning my life. My intention was to be a business owner. So I actually thought that I was going to take business classes, and that's what I did. I took a bunch of marketing classes and keyboarding classes. And then once I reached my senior year of high school, I needed to fill the gaps, fill the schedule, and I took a nursing 101 course. I was told by the teacher that I was good at the class, and I was also good at sciences, and then decided, you know what, maybe I'll go to nursing school. So I don't have the traditional story of I always wanted to be a nurse, but I did have family members who were in healthcare, whether they're physicians, and then my mother was a CNA for years. My father was what they call now environmental services, but housekeeping at a hospital. So that was my exposure to what healthcare looked like. And so I embarked on my journey to nursing school, made it through, and here I am.
And here you are. And here you are. And the business side comes out as well.
And it did, yes.
You had some exposure. So when you became a nurse, though,
yes,
what were the biggest challenges for you? Because having some exposure, you have some expectations.
Yes.
But what were the biggest challenges for you?
So like you said, I've been doing this for a very long time. So the challenges definitely changed through the years. So as a new nurse, of course, the challenges were, do I know what I need to know? Am I ready? Am I responsible to take care of another human being? Passing your boards and actually thinking like, oh my gosh, after all this time, I'm actually a nurse. So the biggest challenge was accepting that role, falling into that role, and accepting and saying that, you know, I am capable of doing this and I am going to do that. And the way that I faced that challenge was preparation. I learned to be prepared. I continued to move as though I was a student, in the sense of the night before your clinicals, to prepare to know who your patients were. And so I went directly into the OR after nursing school. So in that sense, I had the ability to know what my assignments were going to be for the next day. And so I would look ahead and prepare as much as possible to know what the instrumentation were, what the diagnosis of the patient was in relation to the surgery that was going to be performed, so that when I showed up with my preceptor, that I at least had an idea. I always believed in building a foundation. And so as the years went on, things began to change for me. I took a different direction. I became a traveling nurse. By then I was probably a nurse for about 7 to 8 years. So that challenge was walking into different environments and performing as a nurse, but now a nurse with more experience. So that was not only a learning experience for me, but it was also very humbling because,
Yeah.
again, you're learning different ways of doing things, even though the foundation is the same. There's just different ways of doing
Yeah.
things based on the organization that you're working for.
Yeah.
So the way for me to face that challenge was to, one, acknowledge that I already knew what I knew and that I had to be open to receive anything else that I didn't know.
Mhm.
So it definitely allowed me to build my confidence. And I think that after 7 to 8 years, that's when my confidence as a nurse really began to shine through, because I had the ability to walk into different environments and accept that I was going to be perceived as a person who may not know much, because people
Mhm.
didn't know who I was, and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
Um, and then to just be able to be okay with that and accept that I knew who I was and
Got
what
you.
I know, and be open. As life continued, as a nurse, my life changed when I stopped traveling. I had my son, and life began to change. I became a single mother, and I'm taking care of my son and working. So my challenge was where stress began to show up, because I had spent my nursing career like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. It's so amazing. And it still was wonderful and amazing, but my intentions and my goals began to change, where it wasn't just about me and what I needed. This is also, it became a us, like, what can I do for us? And
Mhm.
so my focus began to change, where I wasn't as career driven. And this is a part where I see that I had a little bit of a, what I call a lull, where I wasn't as ambitious. My
Yeah.
driving force was monetary, and like, what can I do to make things better for us? But within
Mhm.
that time, to still get certifications and things like that. And so in order to face that challenge is where I started learning how to take care of myself. And I found pleasure in getting facials and massages and things like that. And that's where the license for aesthetics came through. As a nurse, we always want more and thinking like, oh, what can I do? And so I said, how can I provide this for others, because I enjoy it so much? And that's when I went to obtain my license in aesthetics. So throughout the years, the challenge has definitely changed, and I just found different ways to adjust. But the biggest challenge was for COVID-19,
Yeah.
and finding myself as a frontline worker, and I use the air quotes because
Mhm. Mhm.
at the time I was working for an independent company, so it was physician owned outpatient surgical center. So I was
Mhm.
not that hero that was out there every
Okay.
single day. I was actually furloughed. And so the biggest challenge, here I am, single mother, I'm at home and I'm with my son, and I'm in a panic, like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
so everything became full circle. The business came through, and I started thinking to myself, what can I do to help myself in this situation? It was a huge challenge for me. And that's where Belle Integrative Wellness came through. So after 22 years, there are so many different, the challenges just appeared differently. And I had to show up differently in order to face them and to make the adjustments that I needed to make. And here I am, Belle Integrative Wellness.
Awesome, 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 awesome. And that is nursing actually. That is nursing. It is so it's full of reward, but it's full of challenges.
Yeah.
It's a daily thing. It's a
Yeah.
daily thing. So institution-wise, OR was where you worked most.
Oh yeah, the entire
Mhm.
time when I initially graduated, I started working at Johns Hopkins Wilmer Eye Institute in the OR. They were the first to give me the chance. And back then, this was 2001. It was unheard of where you would go directly into the OR. And I was told like, oh, that's not going to happen. And I go, oh, watch me. Like I was always watch me. And I did it. And I went directly in, but it was too subspecialized for me. And then from there is when I expanded to a different organization that provided me with multi-specialty. And that's how I was able to get into multi-specialty and get my feet wet.
So after 22 years, what do you think now? We're talking so much about so many people are feeling so disillusioned and would like to pivot or transition or do other things, but we still need nurses.
Correct.
And in order for us to continue to have nurses, I think that some things have to change.
Yeah.
So what would you think you'd like to see change?
What I would like to see change in nursing is the ability for nurses to be aware of the gifts that they carry, the gifts that they hold, and their strengths. I think that as nurturers, it's natural for nurses that we take care of others, and we don't necessarily take enough time to really reflect and see what we have to offer in addition to our nursing. Nursing is a gift. But we have more. And if you take the time to speak to someone, there's something that they're really naturally good at. And if nurses were aware that you can combine the two, in addition to the superpower that we have in our nursing license, I mean, come on. What I want to see change, to fully answer that question, is I would love for every nurse to be able to see what their gift, what their strengths are, so that they can be use those superpowers.
You just articulated so well one of the goals of this whole channel. I love it. I really, really want nurses to see that.
Yes.
Because I have to tell you that it makes my skin crawl sometimes when I see the things that we take and submit to, and it's all because we do not seem to be aware of our own selves.
Correct. Because, we're taking physicians' orders, right? So it's like, it's not our fault. It's like, if you're unaware, you're just unaware. And someone has to be able to point it out to you. And then you also have to be in that position to fully receive it and accept it. And acknowledge that what this person is saying, even though you don't see it, that there's a lot of truth, in a good way. In a good
way. And our education, honestly, does not really at this point fill that gap. But it will. It will. I believe it will.
Yes, I believe that too. It takes us, right? They need us. The world needs us. We're here
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the world needs us, and we need to be in it too.
Yes.
To be self-fulfilled, we need to be here. So
yes, for sure.
Yeah. So in all of this, and I know just listening to you, I know that there's so much more to come. But what would you say is your greatest achievement so far?
Oh my goodness. I would have to say the fact that I launched Belle Integrative Wellness, and finally just stepping outside the comfort zone, stepping outside of fear. And not to say that I am fully out of either. I am not fully out of fear, and I am not fully out of my comfort zone. It's a constant journey for me. Business was something initially, like I said, in high school that I thought of, but it was just kind of like, okay. But the way my life has changed so much, especially during the pandemic, and to fully stay and be intentional and say, I'm going to embark on this entrepreneurship and pursue Belle Integrative Wellness, and how it will be a coaching business, and that I will finally embark on my journey towards using my aesthetics license and combining a spa with my wellness, because that is also my long-term goal. So that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
I don't know if you noticed that I was almost laughing when you talked about fear and you were not out of it yet. I had that very thought maybe an hour ago. I was thinking about fear and how we talk about doing things afraid.
Yes.
But we don't go to the other step and saying that just because you did it afraid the first time doesn't mean you're not going to have to do it afraid the second time and the third time and the fourth time. You gotta keep conquering that fear over and over and over and over.
And that's exactly what I mean about the comfort zone. Is what it feels like to me is that I just become more comfortable being uncomfortable. I acknowledge that in the moments that, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is going to happen. And it's like, but I counter it with, but it's okay. I'm going to get through it, and that I'm capable, right? Because it's like, now I remind myself to be fully aware of what it is that I've done and what I'm doing and where I plan to go. And if I want to continue growing, then I'm going to have to face those
Gonna
fears,
have to do it.
push through them, because they don't disappear. They do not disappear.
Nope, nope, no, not at all. They don't disappear. And so I was looking at your speaking of your wellness and all of that, and I saw that you talked about 8 levels of wellness.
Yes.
Just tell me a little bit about that.
So the 8 levels of wellness was what I discovered when I took my integrative nurse coaching classes.
Mhm.
And basically what I've come to is that it became the foundation of Belle Integrative Wellness, because what I realized that with all of us as human beings, in order to combat stress, in order to know why you're stressed, you have to get to the root of it, right? And so there are 8 levels of wellness. And so we have like your physical wellness, your mental, your emotional wellness, relationships, work-life balance, and we have your financial wellness. There's so many different aspects. And because life is constantly evolving, your needs within those levels are constantly changing. So today it could be that I am lacking in my financial wellness, and 2 or 3 months from now, what is probably might be most affected would be my mental and emotional wellness. So what's important is recognizing, being aware of how you're feeling, and but why. We acknowledge like, oh yeah, I'm stressed. Yes, I have a headache. Yes, my stomach hurts, or I'm having GI issues because I'm feeling overwhelmed. But do you know why? Do you know where in your life that things are just being heavily affected so that you're feeling unwell? So with that realization, I made it my foundation, because I can't help driven women manage their daily life struggles and try to complete the goals that they're working on if they don't know what exactly is bothering them. And so that's why the 8 levels of wellness became the foundation for Belle Integrative Wellness.
Yeah, and I'm glad you articulated that, because very often when I speak to people, or when you talk to people about wellness or anything like that, they it's very narrow.
Correct.
It's very narrow. They see their wellness in a very, very narrow way. So I'm glad you talked about that.
Yes.
I had another question I was going to ask, and it's gone from my mind right away, but it'll come back, I suppose. Belle,
Yes.
how did you come up with that name?
So my last name is Belle, Bell. I'm first generation American. My parents are from Haiti. I do not speak French, so I should. But what I did was I put a play on words. And so Belle, Belle, means beautiful.
Mhm.
Die means life. And so I came up with beautiful life, because life is what you make it, and it's our own perception. And it really truly is up to us to decide how our life is going to be. The other aspect of it is the fact that with your wellness, it's not just what's inside of you that you need to take care of and know what's brewing and know what all your levels of wellness are and what your needs are. But what I also enjoy doing in my life is physically taking care of myself, and also my outer appearance, and doing things to take care of yourself, to when you look good, you feel good. So getting your facials, getting your massages, getting your hair done, getting your nails done, traveling. I absolutely love all that stuff. It brings me joy. And so with the two combined, Belle Integrative, combining the two, wellness.
Got it. And I love that you said you use the term "it brings you joy." Brings you
Yes.
joy. Because typically, and you just articulated anyway, the answer to a question I would have asked. Typically, as I ask people about what self-care means to them,
Yes.
because very often we don't even analyze what it means to us, let
Correct.
alone articulate it, and not recognize that A, it means different things to different people, and
Yes.
B, it means different things to the same person on different days and times and
Yes.
whatever. So
Yes.
whatever brings you joy.
Self-care is holistic. It's not something that, of course, it's a term, excuse me, that's been used very frequently. And majority of the time, it seems that self-care is perceived as the aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
Like your facials, your massages, and all
Superficial.
that is wonderful. Obviously, I believe in that, and I love that. But getting a massage for an hour, if you are having mental and emotional issues, and you get a massage for an hour, for that hour, maybe you'll feel great. If your mind is constantly going, maybe you're not getting the full extent of that 1 hour massage that you should be getting. And so therefore you need to get to the root of everything to be able to fully take care of yourself.
Yeah. And that's a lot of work that we're not always willing to do.
No, because it's like, yes, the key
It's not
word is
fun.
joy. The end result is joy. And that's the
But
other false belief, which is the stress that comes from it, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because as you're a driven woman trying to build and attain your goal, you have responsibilities. And there's that middle piece. That stress is no joke. And so here
I
I
know.
come.
I know. So often, in this conversation, Darlene, you use the word driven.
Yes.
Do you think women, for the most part, are generally driven?
Do I think women are driven? I think
Generally.
yes. I think there's different degrees too, because as a driven woman myself, what a driven woman looks like for me in my life
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
I work a full-time job and I'm trying to work on my personal development, which for me, personal development is building a business. And then on top of that, I have my personal life, right? So I have relationships that I need to maintain. I have a child that I have to raise, family. There's all those other things that oftentimes can interrupt or feel like it adds such a heavy weight on top of
Yeah.
everything I'm trying to do. A driven woman can also be a stay-at-home mother
Yeah.
because a stay-at-home mother, her work environment looks different. So even though the kids are home all day, or it maybe the kids are not home, but she still needs to maintain her home. But in the midst of that, she's trying to build something for herself. She could be, whether it's hobbies that she wants to do, or whether it's building a business, or maybe going back to school. There are different goals according to how that looks like for her. And that doesn't eliminate, just because her environment is different, it does not eliminate the fact that stress may be in the middle and that she also has daily responsibilities. So a driven woman, there's a lot of us out there, and there are women who are committed to these personal development goals, whatever that looks like. And they
Yeah.
want to do it, they're determined to do it, but they're dealing with the stress in between. And they want to be able to know how to juggle the
Yeah.
remainder of their life outside of trying to do everything they need to do.
Yeah. And I asked that principle because as you said it occurred to me that as women, we seem to we it seems to be innate in us that we just take on, everything.
Everything.
And it's ours to fix.
Yes.
Everything is ours to fix. If it's dinner, it's ours to fix. If it's
Yes.
this, it's ours to fix.
Yes.
Whatever it is. And somewhere we get lost.
Correct.
And we don't know we lost sometimes.
No, and you can't show up properly for your goals. And in addition to that, you can't show up properly for those daily responsibilities. You're not fully showing up. So you have to show up for
Exactly.
yourself first. First,
Yeah.
you're number one.
Yeah. And then, when you don't show up authentically, it becomes a kind of a vicious cycle
Yes.
that things fall apart. Darlene, I started to recognize nurses. Um, I'm not even quite sure when the realization first hit me, but I started to recognize nurses without being told that somebody's a nurse. I started to notice that I could see and recognize that person is a nurse. And so I started to wonder, what exactly am I seeing? And do we all see it?
Yeah.
Right. And so I started asking nurses, if you could describe the most essential quality of a nurse, what you see as the most essential quality in one word, what would that word be?
I think it's intelligence and caring.
Okay.
I find that for the most part, like most nurses are very caring in the sense of wanting to take care of their patients and take care of
Yeah.
them properly,
Mm-hmm.
and very intelligent. I know like majority of the nurses I know are women who, well, I shouldn't just say women, but nurses in general, are very intelligent people. I think that the doors are evolving in a sense of the awareness of education. I'm seeing
Yes.
a lot more doctorate degree nurses, nurse practitioners, and nurses such as ourselves who are out there getting certifications and starting businesses and
Mhm.
creating platforms.
Yeah.
So having dialogue, it's like it's one of those things that you cannot pinpoint, but I agree with you in a sense where I've had conversations with certain nurses and then I go without knowing they're nurses and then I say,
Yeah.
"Are you a nurse?" There's just something in
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
way, or maybe it's just because I'm a nurse, it's a recognition that we have
I'm not sure.
that I cannot necessarily pinpoint. But
Yeah.
those to me are the two things that are the qualities for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it that we can actually recognize each other.
Yes.
Somehow there's almost like a kindred thing,
Yes.
whether and we don't always have to get into nurse talk to just recognize it. This is a
Correct.
kindred spirit. This
Yes.
is a kindred.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it. So, Darlene, before we go, is there any gem you'd like to leave us with?
I would like for everyone to glow from the inside out, meaning take care of your inner self. Try to understand what you need in regards to your wellness. Expand your idea and your definition of what self-care is and what it looks like. And also take time for the external, to be choosy of the environments where you spend your time, go to places that bring you joy, and do enjoy those moments of pampering and self-pampering, whether it's through dance, whether it's through getting facials or massages and things like that, that you're taking care of not just your internal, but also your external, so that you can glow from the inside out. We're just gonna
And
be out here glowing.
and may I say, you epitomize that because you're certainly glowing, my dear.
Thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm taking the lead on this. I believe this. I believe in it. I'm standing. I'm like, this is all possible. We can all do
It
this.
is. It is
Yeah.
possible. It is possible. Thank you so much for this. I truly, truly appreciate having this conversation with you. I enjoyed it.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
too, Dale. I really appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. My pleasure.